Welcome to Reverb Roundtable, a weekly show that brings the brightest creative minds and digital producers in sports, entertainment, politics, news, and more to share their stories and strategies that will help you become a better leader and creator. On this episode, we are joined by our friend Dave Adamson, more affectionately known as Aussie Dave. Dave wears so many hats, from social media pastor to YouTube pro. He was formerly a part of North Point Church and is currently in roles with Orange Leaders and Fellowship of Israel-Related Ministries, or FIRM. We brought him on the podcast to teach us all he knows, or at least as much as he can teach us in one podcast, about YouTube. Fair warning, Aussie Dave is one of our best friends, so this episode gets a little chaotic because we are having so much fun. But this episode is also a bit like drinking from a fire hydrant because Dave is literally dropping great information the entire time. If there was ever an episode that you need to get the show notes for, it is this one. Just go to rvrb.cc/podcast, subscribe to our email list, and those show notes will be in your inbox ASAP. On that note, let's dive in.
Thank you, Tessa. William, what's up?
What's up? How we doing?
I'm great because we have one of our best friends on the planet on the podcast. Like we love
Dave.
Aussie Dave. we love our guest, but we truly have our best friend on the podcast.
It's truth that Dave is our best friend because this is our second go around at trying to record this episode. The first one was in shambles. It didn't go well at all, but we still talked for 45 to 60 minutes afterwards.
And the fact that it was in shambles was in no way my fault. I just want to clarify that. I've got a reputation.
It was the Australian internet that just dropped out the whole time.
No, you take that back, Will. You know it wasn't the Australian internet.
No, it was Clark and I having a wild day. That's what it was.
Listen, when we say Aussie Dave, we really mean Aussie Dave because Dave, who was our best in life, real life, RILF, whatever it is, friend, he is now way across the globe. He is in another country. You're down under. Where are you in Australia, Dave?
So, first of all, I am in the future because it is,
I'm always in the future.
Saturday morning, right?
I'm like 18 hours ahead of you or something, or something along those lines. It's Saturday morning for me as you record this on your Friday. And I'm actually located in a place called Brisbane, but I'm an hour north of Brisbane on a place called the Sunshine Coast. Does that not just sound like the most, like the best location? Where do you live? I live on the Sunshine Coast. And the interesting thing is,
where did you live before you lived in the Sunshine Coast?
No, I didn't. But the interesting thing is today, rain, nothing but rain. It's terrible. So it's raining on the Sunshine Coast.
Well, we're glad you brought sunshine to our podcast, so it means a lot. Good to have you here, Dave. Dave, as Tessa said in your introduction, which she does so amazingly, she laid it all out. She spelled it all out. But what are you most known for? I mean, when I say Dave Adamson, people say, Will, go.
Aussie Dave, the Instagrammer, the YouTuber,
the community guy, the link guy,
the celebrity.
I will take all of those except the last one. I will take the community guy. I will take the link guy. I will take the Instagram guy. I'll take all of those. I'm happy with every single one of those titles. I think what people know me most for is leveraging technology and digital in the nonprofit space. I think that's, I would say that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking to us. Oh,
sorry, I'm looking at you.
Oh, you had family next to you.
He brings his wife. Would you agree?
He brings his wife. Will you be my live audience? No. So Dave is literally the person that I go to if I need to know how to use social media in church. We've interviewed Bo Coffrin on this podcast, and Haley Vaturis works with us. But I want you to know that if there is somebody, I think all of us, do we call Dave for relationship advice? No. Do we call Dave for health advice? No.
I call him for relationship advice. I don't know about you.
Yeah, we
call Dave when we need to know how to use social media to help a church or a nonprofit advance their mission or their cause. And social media, by the way, includes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, in case you didn't know.
And Clark, and YouTube.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That always gets left out when we talk social media, especially like seriously though, when we talk social media, especially in church or nonprofit space, YouTube is the one that gets left out the most. But as of the start of April, I don't know when you're listening to this or watching this, viewer, but as of the start of April 2021, YouTube is now the #1 most active social media platform in the world, well ahead of Facebook. It's the difference between 71% on YouTube and it's 67% on Facebook. 100%.
Wait, I'm going to ask for the audience. Why do you consider YouTube a social media, Dave?
Because YouTube considers itself a social media platform. That's why over the past couple of months, the past 18 months to 2 years, what you've seen YouTube start to introduce is a community tab for people who have over 1,000 subscribers. They're introducing their version of Stories, which is YouTube Shorts. They are really pushing into that space. Also, again, one thing that gets your views, no matter what industry you're in, if you want to get more views on your YouTube channel, you need to engage with the comments. The algorithm picks up engagement now. So it is acting exactly like a traditional social media platform, which was a funny thing to say, right? Traditional social media, like it's been around for centuries. But YouTube is actively pursuing into this, trying to get into this social media space and be seen as a social media platform. And it differentiates it from something like Vimeo, for example, right? Which is just this video content storage facility. YouTube has this engagement piece. It has this interactive piece. And so I really believe churches, nonprofits, any industry needs to start using YouTube as a social media platform.
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not just a social media platform too, but it's also like the second largest search engine in the world. Is that right?
Second largest search engine in the world, owned by the biggest search engine in the world, obviously Google. Stats came out at the start of April in the US, and the stats were done by Pew Research, and it was fascinating. It said something in the order of, I don't have them in front of me, but it was like 96% of 18 to 39-year-olds use YouTube. 91% of 49 to 50-year-olds, 40 to 50-year-olds use YouTube, and it was like 76% of 50 pluses use YouTube. I mean, it is insane the amount of people that use YouTube, and YouTube is the place people go to find answers for everything, from fixing their car to fixing their marriage. It is the place we search for answers, and that's why we need to start leveraging it more and leveraging it different than the way we've traditionally used YouTube. Again, traditionally, like it's been around forever.
I've heard that line from Dave so many times, and it's my favorite line I'm pretty sure he's ever scripted, which is YouTube is the place people go to figure out everything from fixing their car to fixing their marriage.
But is it not true? It works
so true.
YouTube for everything.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this question. And sorry, I'm asking you the questions now. I'm flipping the script and I'm interviewing you
We're
guys.
being interviewed on this podcast.
So Clark, I can see that you're at your house, and say that door behind you, the handle of the door breaks, right? And I don't think you're a handyman, but you need to fix this. What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you would do?
Listen, I renovated that bathroom right behind me, and guess what I used?
I think you're a handyman. I think you're great.
I used YouTube to figure out how to do it. So thank you. You're right.
Okay. What if he had Vimeo though? What if he was like, and I watched a video on Vimeo to do it? It would have cracked your whole thesis.
Nobody watches Vimeo because it's not a search engine, right? It's a different thing. Correct. So you go, Clark, my door handle's busted. I've got to go to YouTube to find it, and YouTube throws up, or you type that into Google, and Google throws up 3 YouTube videos, which it typically does at the top of the feed. And one video is 2.5 minutes long. The next video is 11 minutes long, and the video after that is 35 minutes long. Which video do you click on?
2 minutes.
I mean, the 2-minute one, of course, Dave.
Yeah. Obviously, right? The 2-minute one.
Or the one that has like the answers that are tagged in like this part will be good for you.
So you can skip forward.
That is a really good good deeper dive into it than what I was going to say. But my point is, your initial thought is the 2.5 minutes is where you want to go, right? Absolutely. Because you want to get that answer shorter. Yet Correct. This is the interesting thing, and the thing that I keep bumping up against when it comes to dealing with nonprofits, especially when it comes to my work with churches, is churches will put up a 35-minute message and expect people to just watch it. And when you consider that 37% of all mobile internet traffic is people watching YouTube videos. Pause there for a second. 37% of all traffic on your mobile phone is YouTube videos. People aren't typically watching a 35-minute message on their phone like this. They're just not doing that. Yet churches insist on pushing out 35-minute messages. I think it's time that we lowered the bottom rung on the digital invitation ladder. We've made it too high. We're asking people to come to our churches online, but we're putting 35-minute messages, and we wonder why people aren't watching it, or the viewer retention drops off after 7 minutes. Why does that happen? Because people aren't used to watching content for that long on their mobile device. And we have to start leveraging YouTube in such a different way, I think.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, practical, give us your authority and your expertise in the space. Give us a case study of something you've done to help an organization go from 0 to 50 or 0 to 100 when it comes to YouTube, and why it was successful. I'm putting you on the spot. Tell me a good case study of why and how it helps.
So the case study that comes into mind, there's actually a couple that come into mind that we did different tactics on to get those views back up. But the first one that popped into my head was so I worked for a church called North Point, which is in Atlanta, one of the biggest churches in the US. Andy Stanley is the pastor there, and Andy is
that guy.
Super well known, in church circles, but he's also known outside of church circles for his leadership stuff. And so I worked with him for 7 and a bit years as the social media and online pastor. And so part of my job was to connect with people who were connecting with the church by digital means, podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. So a couple of years ago, we started a YouTube channel. And as we started to populate that YouTube channel with past messages that Andy had preached, and with new ones as they kept coming in, what I started to notice after a few years was that our viewer retention was dropping off on all of our content. And the big thing was, for a church our size, we weren't getting that many views on our YouTube videos. So what I did was went in and experimented with just one simple video, one simple message. And the message had the message was part of a series that was called You're Not the Boss of Me. That was the series title. Now this message,
that's what I say to my wife every week.
That series was about how you don't let your emotions control you, right? But we called it You're Not the Boss of Me. The thing is, people aren't going to Google, typing in You're Not the Boss of Me, right? But they are wondering, how can I control my emotions? So we started to change. I started to experiment with some different titles for that message, and we ended up landing on how to control your emotions. And as soon as we did that, within 30 days, we had a 98% increase on views on the entire channel, driven by that one video. And armed with that data, I went into Andy and our leadership team, the people who I was reporting to, and said, hey, look what happened when we changed this one thing. And so I got permission to change all of Andy's past message sermon titles to keyword optimized phrases. Everything went up and to the right. I'm talking within another 30 days, we had about 120% increase in all of our channel views, because suddenly these videos were answering the questions that people were actually going to YouTube to ask. And because of that, they were watching, more people were watching, and they were watching for longer. And YouTube started to throw up our videos as the recommended search result for when people typed in those questions. So over the space of the next few months, we literally retitled every single message, and then got on the front end of it with Andy saying, hey, why don't we keyword optimize them first before they go up onto YouTube? And things just took off from there.
So Dave, can that be applied across, if they're not a church, for a nonprofit or a product or something?
100%. This is what I see organizations doing all the time. They're putting out content that makes sense to them. The title makes sense to them, right? But unless you're answering a specific question, people aren't going to stumble onto it. You're not going to find it as easily. So I've been working with churches, nonprofits, and now, like in Australia here, I'm starting to work with a TV channel, for example. And what we're doing is, first cab off the rank really is to start retitling all of those messages. The great thing about YouTube is you can retitle a message and you can change the description, you can change the thumbnail as many times as you want. So I encourage organizations to just experiment, change the title, change the thumbnail, change the description, but make sure they're keyword optimized. That's the key here. They have to be keyword optimized.
Dave, you're throwing so much at us. It's so good. Let's pause. Sorry. Let's take a step back. I'm gonna give you an example that I would imagine a lot of people listening have become familiar with. I know I've been familiar with this before. You're at an organization. Maybe it's a non-for-profit. Maybe it's a church. You guys live stream all the time. You have this tech department that handles all of it. The tech department does not talk to the marketing department and all this jazz. They pay their annual $1,000 fee for their livestream.com subscription with Vimeo wrapped in. They do the live streams. They're already on Vimeo. I copy and paste the title of your talk. I'm done. I'm out. And then the marketing director or whoever's over social media, someone who wants to put intentionality in the mix says, hey, we want to do this. And the IT department or the video director department is like, no, I got a live stream. Leave me alone. It's on Vimeo. You can embed it in my website. I'm done. I've seen that conversation take place. I've been in that conversation. For the people in those situations, either the ones who are in the department side with the video or the tech that like, they're in their rhythms. They got something that works. Why do I have to take a step back? Or to the marketing director trying to figure out why they should hop into YouTube, give like 3 clear, tangible points, pieces of ammo to say, hey, I know it's extra work because you already have the system that now you have to add on to. But if you do this and you do 1, 2, 3, here's going to be the benefit. There's so much good here. What is the reason to change my rhythm of what I already do?
So, you know, when you deal with organizations that are, you know, prolific content creators, like a lot of churches are, think about a church. A church puts out content 52 weeks of the year, right? So it doesn't matter whether or not you work in a church. They're creating prolific content creators. So they're creating plenty of this stuff. But if you're a video editor, for example, and you're editing these messages down, or you're editing this brand awareness campaign or this market, whatever it might be, you as the editor, and I'm addressing this to you, Will, you as the editor, right? You as the content creator, don't you want more eyeballs on the piece of work that you spent hours, days, weeks, months creating? Absolutely. If you want more eyeballs on that because you want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your editing buck, you want to make sure that you have optimized this in the best possible way for the best possible in the best possible place for the most optimized audience participation. So I would say to you as the editor, hey, if we tweak just one thing, like if instead of exporting your video file as, you know, May 1st, 2021 version 7, right, which is what a lot of video people do, if you exported that file as the keyword optimized title that your team has already organized, and had a meeting about, and just keyword optimized the title of that video and then uploaded that to YouTube. Did you know that YouTube's algorithm can read the title of the video file and it categorizes it based on that? So that alone, for the editor's point of view, is what I would say. That one thing will get more eyeballs onto your video. And I'll talk to Clark as the producer side, right? If you're the person who's producing that content, you've put in all this work, you've pulled all of these teams together, your whole marketing team has done this huge campaign. Don't you want to get more eyeballs on it? So instead of calling it just the name of the marketing campaign or the brand name. Give it a title that people are actually searching for so that more people get to see it. And when they get to see it, they watch it for longer. This is the thing about YouTube. YouTube has this ability. People don't go into this far enough, but if they do, it's fascinating. You can find out where on your video, you can watch the video with a graph of where people dropped off and they stopped watching. And you can nail it down to one point. Well, when Will said this on the podcast, people plummeted off, right? Because you'll see the graph take a huge dive. But at the same time, you can also see spikes in the graph. And what that is people have watched something, they've heard something that they liked, and they go back and rewatch it again. That's why you get the little bump up. So you can start creating content around that bump up, right? To get more people watching more of your videos because you know what they like to watch. Or you can stop saying that thing, Will, so that people stop dropping off. You know what I mean? These are the things that you can do in YouTube, but nobody takes the time because too many nonprofits and too many for-profit organizations simply use YouTube like they use Vimeo. Hey, I've got to get this off my hard drive, or I need to share it with some people, so I'm just going to throw it up on YouTube, and then they wonder why it's only got 30 views. They put in all these weeks of work, all these people resources, all these financial resources, and nobody's watching it. And it's because they didn't optimize it with keyword phrases or keyword titles.
Tessa's going to start sending us the graph each week and be like, Clark, we really dropped off when you guys said this. But Dave, there's something that's an underlying philosophy of everything that you're saying, an underlying strategy of everything that you're saying that I want to call out and point attention to. Yeah. And that's that you're trying to take content that's being produced and optimize it for an audience that isn't yet engaged with your organization. Exactly. So many churches are creating content for their organization. And what you're trying to help people do is break down that barrier and reach people outside of your organization. And so many people are landlocked too in the church, right? So it's like, I want to reach people in my community, but the work that you're doing on trying to help churches and non-for-profits optimize their content not only breaks down just the people inside of my community, but you can reach people anywhere, and you can expand your audience from people not geographically close to you, but people anywhere in the world.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly it. But we don't leverage it like that. And we need to start doing that. There are so many things you can do within that YouTube channel that will increase your SEO across the board, will get you much more views on your website or your podcast because it's all connected through Google, right? And Google starts to, pump it up a little bit further up in the search results. But I see a lot of nonprofits using Vimeo to embed videos on their website, whereas if they used YouTube, those views would pump up that SEO faster than anything else they can do. And when it comes to organizations that are, for profit, for example, you see a lot of people, and I know you guys do a lot of create a lot of content for people to use in marketing campaigns for like Facebook ads and things like that. Why aren't we creating more YouTube ads? The bang for buck on YouTube it's much lower. You get more views for less on YouTube than you do on Facebook. Like it's insanely, it is really ridiculous how much bang for your buck you get for advertising on YouTube. Plus, you can target those searches within a geographical region, like you just said, Will. But you can also do what I call an ethical hacking of a popular video on the topic that you're currently in. Does that make sense?
Hold on, go dive into this. He's talked to me about this before. We got to dive in.
Ethical hacking. Ready? Go.
Okay. So for example, let's just say I've got a mug here, right? So say the three of us, let's say this. Will, you and I are in the mug making company, right? This is what we do. We make mugs.
You, baby. Let's go.
That's all we do. And so we want more people to buy our mugs, right? We want more companies to print their logos on our mugs because we think we've got the best mugs. So we want to start an advertising campaign. We can go to Facebook and create a really good video and throw it out there. That's totally cool. We can do that and it would work. But we also know that over on YouTube, Clark has this channel with 1 million subscribers, and it's all about critiquing mugs, right? That's all he does. He gets millions of views. He's the Mr. Beast of mugs, right? That's all he does is make
Mr.
mugs.
Mug.
Now, he doesn't want to work with us because we're his competition. So what we do when he's putting his next video out, we make a video about how good our mugs are, right? And we turn that into, like, we maybe make a 2-minute ad. And what we do is we target his videos, Clark's mug videos, for our ads, so that when somebody clicks on, one of the millions of people who viewed Clark's channel click on to find out something about the newest mug that he's reviewing, what YouTube does is there's always a 5-second ad beforehand. So somebody's typed in, what's the best mug? YouTube throws up Clark's video because it's got 1 million views. But what plays is our video, our company's video that says, hey, we've got the best mugs in town. Now, 2 things happen. The average viewer doesn't click off because they think they're watching the video that Clark had put up, right? Second, if they skip off that video, first of all, if they skip after 5 seconds, we don't pay. Well, our company doesn't pay for that ad. But we've still got a banner on the computer. We've still got our advertising banner onto the right of Clark's video. So this whole time Clark's talking about mugs over here, get your mugs from Will and Dave is over here on a banner. Does that make sense?
Dave, I think you've inspired me to start a new company.
Yes.
We've ethically hacked Clark's popular video. You can do this. You can't do that on any other platform.
What brand have you used this tactic with? I want to know how you ethically hacked with an Andy Stanley sermon. I know you've done it, and I want to know.
The first time I did it was at North Point. We have a groups, a groups conference, like for small group leaders, discipleship, that sort of thing. And this was the very first time I ever did it. We created a video saying, what are you all laughing at? We created a video talking about, the importance of discipleship in small groups, and we put it on the most popular small group video, and we hacked that video and got views and got websites as a result.
Fascinating.
Is it really, Clark?
It is. Like, I'm literally sitting here on my computer. I've got my Facebook leads up from this ad that we're running. I'm like, why am I doing these? Why don't I go ethically hack some really famous YouTuber that's like an event content creator, which I don't know if they're out there, but
well, here's the thing. YouTube is so niched at the moment, right? So micro niched that you can find we found small group discipleship class videos that had 150,000 views. And that was probably the most niche thing I could think of, right? But if you're doing it for a mug company, if you're doing it for a hat making company, you better believe there's people out there who are creating these videos who've got hundreds of thousands of views and millions of subscribers, and you can ethically hack those videos and be on the front end of them. And the best thing about it is our cup company, we do not pay for our ad to run until it passes the 29-second mark. So by that point, we hopefully have them hooked, right? We've already hooked that person, and we've told them what the call to action is. And if they skip at 28 seconds, we don't pay for it. It's so good. It's such a great idea. All
right. So I did some legwork for you, Clark, and I typed event management into YouTube to see what videos we need to ethically hack. And lo and behold, 5 event management tips for beginners by Elevate Experiences, the one and only Billy
There you
Bowie.
go.
So
Billy's
me and you need to go. We need to go ethically hack Billy Bowie's YouTube. I think what that means.
I'm just going to invoice you guys for it. Okay, is that okay? I'll just invoice you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna do what Will did. I'm gonna bring us back. Bring us back. Okay. So I'm listening to this podcast, and I'm like, I can't even figure out LinkedIn. Like, I was trying to do Facebook and Instagram, and now I'm trying to do Twitter and LinkedIn. What do you mean you're going to give me a whole nother platform to learn?
Yeah.
Tell everybody to take a breath and tell everybody like some 1 or 2 initial steps they can do to start leveraging content on YouTube. Like, where do they start?
Okay, so, we all know, and I know you guys know this, and I'm sure your past guests on this podcast have said this as well. Video is so important to social media. It's not even funny. So let's assume you are already doing video, and maybe you're putting them to Facebook, maybe you put them to Instagram and Vimeo, but you're not doing it to YouTube. First of all, start a YouTube channel. Start posting your video content to YouTube. Then the next most important thing you can do is to keyword optimize your videos. Okay. Now, I don't know if we've unpacked what keyword optimized means or what a keyword phrase is. A keyword or a keyword phrase is literally the sentence that people type into Google when they're searching for something. So they might be typing in, what's the best mug for me to buy, right? Now, our company, Will and Dave's company, we're paying Google thousands upon thousands of dollars to make sure that we are at the top of that search result. We pay Google tons of money for that. We do, because that's just how it's called. Now, Google calls that the ZMOT. ZMOT, zero moment of truth. It's a marketing term that says when somebody's researched a product, whether it's a cup, whether it's a camera bag, whether it's a hat, and they're ready to hit buy, Google says that is the zero moment of truth. And companies pay huge amounts of money to get there. In the nonprofit space, especially in the church space, if you're a church leader watching or listening to this right now, I'm speaking directly to you. In our church space, the zero moment of truth doesn't come when somebody's purchasing something. It comes when a wife gets on Google and types in, how do I save my marriage? It comes when a dad gets on and says, how do I stop my kid from overdosing? It comes when somebody comes into Google and types in, how do I find hope in the middle of a pandemic? How do I stop looking at pornography because it's ruining my life? These are the zero moments of truth for us. And that's why as church leaders, we have to be in that space. And that happens when we're on YouTube, but it only happens when we keyword optimize our videos. So, calling a video, get out of the boat, which is a super, anybody who's watching this, who's from church knows that you've heard a sermon called Get Out of the Boat. But really that is about facing your fears. Instead, why don't you call it Facing Your Fears? Why don't you call your message video How to Find Hope in the Midst of a Tough Situation? Why don't you call your video Where is God When Life Hurts? People will watch that because that's what people are actually typing in. I've got 3 daughters, right? You guys know my 3 girls. Because they're all under 20, they are making major life discoveries and major life decisions online. That's what they're doing. They've been doing it their whole life. And when they go to online to find the answers to these questions, I want to make sure that pastor's videos there, and they're not just watching Mr. Beast give advice. Not that there's anything wrong with Mr. Beast. I watch him all the time. I've just never referenced him twice in one podcast. But do you know what I'm saying? We have to be creating content and distributing that content in a way that people actually find it in their zero moment of truth when they need truth.
So Dave, what you're saying is that the church has an obligation not to just disciple their existing member base. They have an obligation to put the word where people are. Is that what you're saying?
Dude, 100%. If you're a church, read the Gospels. It says Jesus went around the countryside preaching the good news. Jesus in Mark 16 literally says, go into all the world and preach the gospel, right? That word go, apart from being 2/3 of God's name, so you should use that verse all the time. That word go, I did a really deep word search into that word go. I looked it up in Hebrew. I looked it up in the original Greek. And do you know what that word go literally means? Go.
Tell me.
That's what it means. It means go. It means go and do something. Go with intentionality. Go with a strategy into these places, into the world. And in the modern day, this is the world.
That's a great point.
Because church leaders, guess what? People who are at your church are carrying around with them in their pocket every single day a pulpit, a worship team, and an offering plate. And if we're not leveraging technology to reach those people, then I believe we're not following the example that Jesus set. Now, I will get pushback on this all the time because I always do. Well, there's a verse in the Bible in Hebrews that says we should not give up meeting together. I'm not saying give up meeting together. I'm just saying stay connected with people.
You're saying go.
Since Will was challenging all the church leaders who are watching and listening to this, I want to challenge them all as well. Go doesn't mean sit in your church building and hope that people come at a specific time on one day of the week to spend 1 hour with you and then preach the gospel. It means to intentionally go with strategy and intentionality. And it doesn't mean only talking about your events. Come to my event. Come to this thing. Come on. Don't use social media to invite people to events. Use social media to invite people to life-changing conversations. That's what I would say. We have to start leveraging this technology in a way, in the same way that the Apostle Paul did. He used the technology of his day to connect people with God and with each other. We've got to do the same. Now, the technology of Paul's day, was letter writing. I'm going to explain this to you, Will. Letter writing is when you take paper and a pencil and you press it down and you move your wrist around in words form. That's letter writing. That was the technology of Paul's day.
It was like Notion before it was on the computer.
It was pre-Notion. Pre-Notion. That sounds like a. Are you pre-Notion, a-Notion, or post-Notion? Which one are you, Clark? It sounds like a religious term.
He's a-Notion.
But do you catch what I'm saying? Too many church leaders are sitting back waiting for people to come to them, and they use technology like YouTube to get more people to come to them. We need to go into that space and leverage that technology as much as possible to reach people who currently aren't being reached. That's what we need to do. And the other reality for church leaders, according to Pew Research and Gallup Research, only 22% of Christians were attending church every single week pre-COVID. This is not post-COVID. This is in 2019. 22%. That means 78% of your church community were only attending once every other week, once every 3 weeks, or once every 4 weeks. But how are they connecting with you? They're watching online, they're watching on YouTube, or they're listening to your podcast. They're not. Church attendance isn't decreasing, it's decentralizing. And we have to make sure that we're leveraging all of these tools to reach those people who are accessing our content outside of our church building.
I don't know where to go from this. I do know where I want to go from this. It's so good, Dave. It's so good, Dave. You're being exactly what we want you to be, and that is a guide. You are helping people understand the world and how to use technology to make their jobs, their ministries, their organizations better and stronger. All right, ready, Dave? I have a topic for you. I'm just going to say 2 words, and you just have to go. You ready? Okay. We're going to go away from YouTube. Okay. I'm so excited that you're nervous. Okay. I'm so excited that you're nervous. We're going to go away from YouTube.
I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie.
Facebook
One
groups.
wheel.
Go. No, Facebook groups. One wheel is at the end. Facebook groups, go.
Facebook groups is a great opportunity for any church leader, any nonprofit, to foster a community where they can grow people and stay connected to them for the other 167 hours of the week outside of that 1 hour that potentially they're at their church service. So you need to be leveraging Facebook groups to build that community, but don't just post the same things into your Facebook group that you post to your page. In fact, hey, church leader, why don't you go in there and actually do a Facebook Live into your group and let people know what you're reading? It doesn't have to be a 3-hour epic. It just needs to be a 3-minute video that says, hey, so today I was reading this book and I got this out of it, and I think this can practically help your faith in this way. I think too many church people overthink or they overproduce content.
Yeah.
And I know Will's like,
I got to follow up for that one. No, I got to follow up for that one. So, Clark, we use Clark as an example now. We're done with the Will and Dave mug making. Clark is a pastor at a small church in Tennessee. He doesn't have a huge production team. It's really just Clark and a MacBook they could barely afford. What does Clark do to leverage YouTube when he doesn't have resources? What does Clark do to leverage video, to leverage Facebook groups? How does he leverage all these tools when he doesn't have a team of resources behind him?
Great question. So I, early on in the pandemic, mid 2020, I had a chat with a pastor in Texas, and I think this applies to any industry. Again, any industry. It doesn't have to be church. It doesn't have to be nonprofit. But he was telling me that he's been producing this content every single week that got maybe 200 views to it, right? Putting all this time, all this energy, all these resources into 200 views on YouTube. But then during the pandemic, what he did was he went out of his house to walk his dog. He had his phone with him and he just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do a YouTube live. So he got on, did a YouTube live and literally just said, hey, I'm struggling. I bet you're all struggling as well. I'm going to be walking my dog for the next 30 minutes and I just want to pray for anybody who wants it. So if you want prayer, get in the comments, let me know, and I'll pray live for you right now. Right? Really simple, but really authentic as well. Called out that he was struggling, and so he assumed other people were as well. He contacts me afterwards and he says, Dave, I've been doing this prolific content creation for 2.5 years, putting it out on YouTube. I get 200 views. I do that one thing live while walking my dog, and it got 17,000 views. I never want to preach a message ever again. And I was like, that required zero production. That required zero resources other than what he had in his hand, which was his phone. I think too often, and Will, I know you get this, but I also know you're a big production and gear guy like I am. I'm sitting here right now with a really expensive microphone and an expensive camera and a light up here and mood lighting behind me showing off my one wheel. Not sponsored, but wish it was. But all I tell pastors do, if you've got a phone and access to a window, you can create really good content just by doing that, because we all know bright pixels are sharp pixels. So stand in front of a window. If you have to up your game or want to up your game in one area, put it into audio. Buy a little microphone that will plug into your phone, and we can leave links in the YouTube description down below. See what I'm doing there? We'll leave links to some options that you can buy. Just improve your audio. It's called AVL for a reason. Audio visual lighting. Audio comes first. Right? Audio comes first because audio is most important. People will put up with bad video quality. They won't put up with bad audio quality. Part of the reason we had to re-record this podcast is because Tesla's microphone was woeful. And it sounded like a robot was talking. So we canceled and we
No, it was my microphone wasn't working. but don't blame this on Tesla. Simply spend $50, get a microphone that plugs into your phone, and then get out in the sun. God provided us with some great lighting, and it's really warm and it's soft, and it can make you look awesome.
to that point, it is so easy to basically allow production value to inhibit you from creating content
100%.
because so many other people have XYZ, or I'm going to start when I have XYZ. But I've also seen this man, Dave, in the middle of a desert with just a phone, still creating content. And so I think that speaks to, it's about the quality of content that you're bringing to the camera, not about the quality of the camera. It's about the content that you're speaking and how you're engaging more than the production value. And I know that's something that like Reverb internally, like we struggle with all the time of we want to do things with the highest quality. We want to do things the best way. But at the end of the day, we're here to help our clients in a way that gives them the best tangible results. So having the sexiest video or the best looking video might not be as effective as making a stupid ad that just works, or recording something in a way that we normally wouldn't with a phone, or, without lighting and all that jazz. Ultimately, it is about how the content engages with your audience, how it gets them to go where you want them to go and engage with them. But it's a hard tension.
Yeah, totally. But can I add one? I'm going to and that, because I 100% agree.
And. Raise me.
Yes, and in social media and YouTube world, right, we've always been told, this is the thing that we've told over and over again, is that content is king. I don't agree with that. I think context is king. Context is king, because here's the reality. If I'm speaking to somebody and answering the question that is most important to them in their context, then that's the most helpful, most engaging, most relevant content that they could possibly access in that moment. I think in church world, we've screwed up the definition of relevant. And that hinders us too much. We assume, we're a relevant church. Well, why? Well, because we've got really cool lighting and smoke machines, and our worship leaders wear skinny jeans and really deep V's, and our pastor rides a one wheel. So we're relevant, right? No, seriously though, that's what we think is relevant. But the reality is, if I'm in the middle of a desert and I've been stuck there for a week, and Clark walks over to me with a bottle of water, he is the most relevant person in the world to be in that moment. I don't care what he's wearing. I don't care what sort of car he has. He is meeting my need. Relevance is about meeting needs. I talk to pastors all the time that say, I don't want my people getting on YouTube, because then they're going to watch Andy Stanley's, Stephen, all these celebrity pastors who can preach better than me. But there's one thing y'all can do that Andy Stanley can't, that Steve Furtick can't, and that's serve the people in your community in the context to the needs that they currently have. So do that. I don't know why you're snapping. I don't get this.
It's like it's an American thing, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. What do you do in the down under? Do you just like thank people or something?
We salute and then we swing this thing around our head that makes a really loud noise that can be heard from miles. It's called a woomera. Look it up. I'm going to do a video on it.
Listen, it sounds a lot like StoryBrand, honestly. Like the problem is the story. The problem is the story. The problem is the story. If you meet people where the problem is, that's the story. I literally just said it to somebody in a text right before this podcast. They were asking me what they should prepare their content for next week. Like, how can they get ready for content creation next week? I said, problem. Get ready to talk about the problem, because that's what people care about. And you're just saying it in just a couple of different words.
Yes, exactly. But that's exactly what it is, Clark. That's exactly what it is.
Dave, and I don't want to take this too quickly away, if you have any more questions about YouTube or Facebook, but I have a question for Dave. Dave, you are what? Oh my gosh, that's the biggest bottle of water I've ever seen, William.
Yeah, I know, right?
I did not know what it was. I thought it was like
he's bringing the cannon.
Bring it back in. I know. It was
this is mine and Dave's water bottle company. We graduated from mugs. It's called Mir.
It is. That's such a great bottle, Will. Such a great bottle. Sorry, Clark.
Please leave this in the show. So, Dave, you are truly the guide of guides. You have been, for me personally, you know this, when we first met, Dave, we're going to tell our whole audience. This was not planned.
Are we really?
This is not planned. Yeah, we're going to tell the whole audience. When we first met, it was in San Diego, California, on our way there. But here's the thing. Dave and I were both aware of each other, okay? We kind of both knew about each other's friends. I knew Dave had this really big following, and Dave knew that I had this small following of dedicated fans. And so I'm just validating. I don't know. Dave had this and so we were both like, kind of, who is this guy? Anyways, we were traveling to California, and we were going to stay in the same hotel together, right?
Yep.
And we were both like, I don't know, who is this guy? This is going to be interesting. So we both ended up somehow asking the same person for advice. Like, are we going to be safe? What did you ask her? What did you ask? Am I going to get murdered? What did you ask?
I think we texted like within minutes of each other as well. I think you got in first. But yeah, I asked this mutual friend, is this guy okay? Is he going to murder me in my sleep? That was the thing I was most worried about, because I didn't know.
So no, we didn't. So Dave and I get out there. We had never met before, and then we turned into the best of friends. I may have drank an adult beverage for the first time in my life. I'm admitting that on national TV here. I laughed more on the trip to San Diego than I've ever laughed in my entire life. But here's the thing. Dave has led me to such wisdom and such knowledge. If I somehow prematurely die, I want Dave to speak at my funeral. No, I've told you this before. He offers so much wisdom. So I'm saying all this for a point. Dude. Dave, how can we learn about you? You have several not playlists, but several things you're doing on the internet. I think YouTube. Where can we go learn from the practical wisdom? Tell us about some of the things you're working on and where they're being posted.
So I mean, I post to Instagram every single morning, just some what I hope is ancient wisdom with a modern application.
Yep.
That's the first time I've said that, and that sounds good. I'm going to change my whole bio to that. Ancient wisdom with them. Will, can you write that down for me? Because that's really good. Text it to me later on. Ancient wisdom with a modern application. That's what I do on my Instagram. Do that every single day. I'm currently doing a series called 1,000 Online Ministry Questions. I'm trying to answer 1,000 online ministry questions, because I've been doing this since 2008, long before I think it was still dial-up internet when I started doing online ministry. And so I'm trying to answer 1,000 questions. I'm trying to help pastors around the world just by answering questions. So people have been sending them to me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. They text them to me. They DM me all the time. And I just do a really quick video that answers that specific question. So you can find that on... you can find that mostly on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is at Aussie Dave. But if you want to find out anything else, like all the other things that I've got going on, because I traveled to Israel a bit, and I've got a few things going on over in Israel, which is fantastic, and I do stuff all over the place. But the best way to do it, if you right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to get your phone out, hold it up to the screen, and just scan that QR code. I'm going to leave it there for a second. And this is where you'll get all the contact information for me, including all of my socials, all of my Instagram socials, all of my email addresses, everything like that. So just scan that code. Sorry if you're listening to this.
Send me your QR code. Send me your QR code, Dave. It's going to be on the screen. He doesn't have to hold up his phone to the camera.
Isn't that better?
If you're listening on audio, his link page is going to be in the show notes as well at the very bottom.
Or they can just watch it on YouTube, right? They could watch it on YouTube.
Or they can watch it on YouTube. But if you didn't watch it on YouTube and our show notes are in your email, you can get it there as well.
What's the link to the YouTube channel?
Reverb Agency, RVRB Agency.
Nice. Good. Go youtube.com/RVRB Agency. And after you've done that,
here's the
youtube.com/Aussie Dave.
Here's the thing I've learned about this, Dave, as it relates to this roundtable. We're gonna start changing the titles to answering the questions that are being asked on the podcast. Is that what we're supposed to do?
Will you really?
My takeaway from this podcast is that we're gonna hit up Link, who is now our client, and just redirect Dave's page to someone else's page for a day or two, just to kind of see what happens.
Well, see, this is the thing. Hey, can I talk about that for a second? So, Will mentioned Link, LINQ. Like, if
I was going to say, talk about Link. Go.
If you're listening or watching this, you need to check out this app. Like, literally, what I call it is the first COVID-friendly business card, and they came out long before COVID. So it's literally a thing. I've got it. Will, you know this? I've got my Apple. I haven't got it on now, but pretend it's an Apple Watch band, and the NFC is built into that. And so, literally, people touch their phone to my watch band, and all of my details pop up. It is an outstanding company, and we found it. I found it through Will. Will told me about it just before I did a conference. Right, I was speaking at a conference. I found it through
Clark.
Yep. And Will and I had a bet at this 2-day conference. He said, I bet you can't get more Link followers than me. I said, okay, you're on. And so during my keynote, I put that QR code up, and by the end of the day, I had like 300. And
he did.
Will, I blew you out of the water.
Since this podcast has turned into utter chaos at the end, you want to know something very interesting and funny about Link? I was supposed to export a video for them for an ad that they have to send to a very large event company before this podcast, and you just reminded me. So I just exported it, and I'm currently uploading it because it was very much supposed to be done about 33 minutes ago, and in someone's inbox.
Well, you're welcome, Will. I'll invoice you for that as well.
Yeah. Invoice me for that as well. I'll let Jared know, and I'll pass the invoice on to Jared. And
listen, but can I turn this, Clark, can I turn that into something? Seriously. And again, speaking to the church leaders here, look up Link, LINQ, because it is a great way for you to connect with people and make yourself more accessible to people in the modern world. Like, in all seriousness, I've turned my Link page into like a splash plate, like a landing page for all of my content and for how people can access me. And here's the thing, guys, I've actually created one for a church that I'm attending here, and they use it now for new people. Hey, new here, scan the code, and they get all this information about the church. So there are multiple ways you can use this. So I would be encouraging nonprofits. I would be encouraging church pastors. Look up Link, LINQ. It's absolutely fantastic and literally not sponsored. I don't get anything. You guys don't get anything. Well, you guys are working for them, so I don't know. You probably do.
Amazing.
We don't actually right now. We got a few wristbands on the way. I think we're going to actually do a Link for Teams though. So they have a product Link for Teams. So if you're in a church and you have multiple people in it, you can get on the Teams product.
Yeah, Link for Teams is good because you imagine all your guest services team church leader, and when somebody new comes in and they've got a wristband on, they just tap it. They got the information. It's brilliant.
Which while this is just again degraded into utter chaos, we'll backtrack this and make sure that we invoice Link for this. They can be a sponsor for this podcast.
Yeah, they're
Link
sponsoring this podcast.
Actually has a a product called Link for Events that allows you to actually take this into the event space as well and easily connect with everyone in attendance at your event. So it works on all different areas.
Clark is trying to bring it back, but before he does, Link is also about to bring out a material band, right?
The fabric one is what you're talking about with the QR code on it?
Yes, so
Link, they're adding the QR code to it?
Send me one of those, Link, and also one wheel. Send me a new one wheel.
I already told Matt, and I was like, as soon as the fabric ones come in, I need an all blacked out fabric Link band.
Okay, Dad's going to bring us back now. Come on.
I was going to say something that was complimentary to this. The Reverb Roundtable was born today in a way. Like, this is what I want us to do. Like, I want us to be able to just have conversations and help people discover problems that we're discovering with each other. Like, this was so good. So regardless of how programmed we want this to be, this was actually the roundtable vibe that I hope we get towards as we move forward. So Dave, you birthed something on the roundtable, the Reverb Roundtable.
I'm glad I can
and
help.
Tessa, who you can't see, but we can see, our producer, her head is shaking and she's laughing now. Okay. She's hands in the air. Listen, Tessa just showed you how she can come into the podcast that easy.
I think this podcast
Tessa
needs more Tessa.
We agree, Dave. Especially popping in like this.
Hashtag more Tessa.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching or listening.
No, hang on, wait. If you're listening and watching and you want more of Tessa on the podcast, make sure you use social media and tag Reverb Agency in all social media channels and use the hashtag more Tessa. And then use the hashtag welcome back Clark.
Welcome back Clark. More Tessa.
My face hurts.
Aussie
Listen,
Dave.
my face hurts from smiling and laughing so much in this episode, and that's exactly how I felt the first time we met. It's San Diego.
Clark has to go buy a car.
I'm fine. I'm trading my wife's car today. For anybody else that's still listening to the Reverb Roundtable, we are so grateful for you.
Left 15 minutes ago.
We are so grateful for you. We hope that you had as much fun here as we did. We can't wait to see you on the next one as we bring more fun, more friends, more family who are creating real-time content and leading the way right here on the Reverb Roundtable. Thanks, Dave. We love you.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on Reverb Roundtable. I don't know about you, but I'm on my way to rename every single YouTube video we have ever posted. Just a reminder, if you want show notes for this episode, you do, just go ahead and go to rvrb.cc/podcast. We'll see you next week on Reverb Roundtable.